Hey all, here we got some Stanadyne Brown bottle fuel additive. This is strong stuff. You only use it, once every so often. They say about 4 times a year. Put this in, and it's got that proper chemical additives, or additives that actually do clean the injectors. It's not a joke. And it's also got some cetane improver in it, just like the other bottles as well. So the blue bottle, that makes sense to use as your everyday, if you use additives every day. I don't. I've been keeping track of things like fuel economy and stuff, hand calcing it for 3 years now, and I've learned that fuel additives don't really help me in fuel economy. A lot of times I lose fuel economy, and what I run these for is strictly to clean the injectors and extend their life. If I feel that this could be some kind of preventative maintenance, I'll buy it. And this particular product, I think I have some confidence in. I've also had confidence in Hot Shots Extreme or something like that. So it got a red label on it. I've had a little bit of confidence that stuff's good too, and that's also strong stuff. You don't run it every tank. Diesel clean is not bad. One thing I can tell you about diesel clean is it gives you can feel that extra cetane maybe. It's barely noticeable, but it is noticeable nonetheless. That if you live in a hilly area or mountainous area, you'll notice, if you get the same result as I do, that you're a little bit less likely to downshift on hills. You tend to go up a little more confidently. But just highway cruising, you don't really notice a difference. And then, at the pump, you kind of realize, your fuel economy, sometimes it's a little up, a little down. It doesn't make that 10% improvement, in my opinion. I doubt it's really statistically negligible, according to my data, at least. So I'm just trying to put some of that information out there. So the whole point of this, for me, is just clean them injectors up. So this is 50 gallons treatment. I've got a 35-gallon tank, and I'll just dump the whole thing in, and that will more than take care of it. They make smaller bottles you can order online, but they only do 25 gallons. So if you do that, you'll have to burn off some of your tank and then put it in. That's what I would do. But instead, I'm going to give it a proper treatment. So if you have any questions about different additives and what my thoughts are on them, post below. And we'll be on our way to get some fuel. I've got some other things that are worth mentioning on fuel economy. Certain other variables. So we've talked about additives a bit, and I believe they don't really help much. And they help in other ways, but fuel economy isn't one for me. But another one's tire size. I've had 3 different sets of tires on this truck, different weights, different sizes, and I started with stock size, 265, 70, 17. Got 18.4 miles per gallon on the highway unloaded. That's a hand-calculated average. And before I got rid of the tires, I only put maybe 10 tanks through the truck, so it didn't get that long of a test run. But it was summertime into the fall, so there wasn't really any winter MPG there. The truck has been in various locations, Pennsylvania, Mississippi, back to Pennsylvania, Mississippi again, all over the country, driving around. Well, mostly eastern half of the country, driving around. And then we switched. It was right at the beginning of the winter in 2014. switched to 285 75 17 tires. And these were a huge surprise. We had more weight. They were Toyo MTs. We had more weight. I think they weighed 81 pounds a pop. Something like that. Maybe that's how much my 35s weigh. But we literally gained 20 pounds a tire. And we gained 2 inches of height on each tire and half an inch of width. So we were 34 high and 11.5 wide. Our fuel economy went up to 18.8 miles per gallon average. And I got a lot of miles out of the Toyo MTs. It's 63,000 miles I put on them before I changed them. Now they probably should have gone off the truck at 60K, but that's a good bit of miles for heavy duty Ram. They're so heavy. And then I went to 35s, and this is where the pendulum swings the other way. The reason the fuel economy went up on the 34s is because my RPMs were down like 200 RPMs at same speeds that I normally drive. And the turbo wasn't trying to make up for it either. With 35s, the turbo might be trying to make up for it. Somehow you lose some fuel economy because the RPMs are low. I'm going 71 miles an hour at 1700 RPMs right now. You know, if you want to observe that, there you go. So our RPMs are nice, but our fuel economy, it's not doing what the 34s did for me. Each tire and rim combination on this truck, we add up to a total of 101 pounds. The tires have their weight. The rims are 4 pounds a rim heavier than stock. And then you got I've got balance beads in them, which is probably like a pound of beads in each tire. So the 35s are giving me roughly 18 miles a gallon. It's like 17.9 miles per gallon highway unloaded. So it's been a lot better lately. I've been getting some 18.2, 18.4, you know, and that's not too bad. So tire size has an impact. Another thing you have to think about when you get a taller tire, you almost give your truck a little bit of a lift. And that lift gives you a little bit of air resistance. Compared to the 32s, we're 1.5 inches higher. So it's almost like I've got a leveling kit with stock tires with these 35s on here. It's stock suspension. Yes, it does rub a decent deal. And next time for tires, I think I'm going to do 295/70 or 315/70. Both are a little smaller than the American, units of 35 by 12.5. Or smaller, I did say, right? So we're going to give those a try. I actually kind of want to do the 295s because they're a 33.5 high, 12 wide. So they'll be a little bit shorter than the old 34s, a little bit taller, or a little bit wider than the old 34s. So I'm interested in giving that a try and see if we can get, back to that 18.8 highway average. And it does vary, summer, winter, that's another factor. Wintertime up north, when I put these 35s on, it was around Thanksgiving last year, and I was up north. And gosh, I was struggling to get 17 on the highway. I rarely did that. I think it took me until like February before I started hitting 17 highway. I was getting like 16 and a half or so on the highway, unloaded in the winter. That's when I tried that Hot Shots diesel fuel additive, and I bumped up 0.5 mile a gallon, and I thought that really helped me in that situation. But I've also tried the Hot Shots and lost fuel economy, so it's not like I could really conclude anything from that. And then, summer with the 34s, I could get 20 miles a gallon on the highway, hand calculated. In fact, my record was 21.0 miles per gallon. Only happened once, and best was like a 20.8, 20.7. But that's like exclusively highway unloaded. You know, I took a job for 3 or 4 months, and I had to drive 65 miles one way. So you can imagine, you know, you jump on the highway, cruise for 65 miles, get off, and then do it again on your way home. And that's mostly what you were doing, you know, as you were doing your daily driving. So that's how I got that good a fuel economy. And as a side note, the truck's mostly stock injectors, stock turbo, you know, stock pretty much everything. It's got a straight pipe and a cold air intake, AFE. That's it. So another thing I've noticed with this truck is not necessarily with towing, but with hauling. You know, I can haul stuff, sometimes, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pounds, and not really see any impact in fuel economy. I threw a kayak back there, my fuel economy went up compared to the previous tanks one time. I couldn't believe it. I was riding down the road to kayak back there for 150 miles, and then drove it 150 miles back, and filled up. And my fuel economy, this is when I had the 34s on there, fuel economy went from like 18.5 or 6 up to 19. So I was like, oh wow. You know, and all kinds of fishing gear back there too. You know, ended up, you know, it's not like that's a lot of payload, but it's, you know, 600, 700 pounds. I had a passenger or 2 or 3 in the vehicle with me. So, I mean, and, you know, it's the middle of summer, but, yeah, didn't really see any penalty there. So, I mean, when I had this truck when I was in college, and I drove it 1,000 miles, 950 miles, you know, 970, whatever it was. Drove it, and I had everything I had. You know, I had to bring with me. The bed was packed, you know, and it wasn't an aerodynamic pack either. I had chairs and stuff, boxes, you know, sitting up and, you know, catching some wind. And of course the interior was packed full, and there was a lot of weight on top of the truck, you know, just in sheer stuff. And I was still getting 19 point something miles a gallon, you know, on that haul. So, when it comes to hauling, you do pretty good. I hauled big culvert pipe. You know, didn't haul it too far, but I mean, that thing was sticking up in the air. I'll see if I can post a picture. The thing was sticking up in the air and catching all kinds of air. It's a 20-foot pipe. And had to figure out a way to get it there without a trailer. And I figured it out. It worked out really well. I had that thing locked down good. And then I hauled alfalfa hay in the back of the truck without a trailer. Had that alfalfa hay, and that weighs 100 pounds of bale. We had about 14 bales. You know, 90 pounds maybe only. But 90 to 100 pounds of bale, and I had them bales stacked up in the bed. Yeah, hauled that good too. And another good thing was the rear end wasn't squatting down hardly at all. So that's one of the selling points for why I really wanted this truck, because, you know, I really don't want to, you know, have to get a, you know, F450 or whatever to not squat under relatively pedestrian loads. You know? So I really like the suspension here. I bet you the Super Duty rides a lot smoother than this truck does unloaded. But I have no clue what this guy is doing. Super Duty probably runs a lot smoother unloaded. But one thing I do notice about this truck is it's really nice if you just put the load on the back. I put a gun safe in the bed one time. That was ideal. So here's our fuel station. Now, I don't like going to the station because it requires like a 3-point turn to get in. And right now, the diesel pumps are all parked at, believe it or not. Surprise. Gas pumps are open. But, yeah, we'll just wait, you know. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's not like they know what they're doing. So, yeah, we're gonna get there. Some people like to fill up their truck first and then put the fuel in. That's what or the additives in. That's what I do. But other people's like, we want it to get mixed up and all that, you know, real good, and put the additive in first. So here goes. Takes like a 3-point turn in here, so I'll get back with you in a minute. 13 today. I was just taking on a little drive, you know, a little bit of a scenic way home, but, you know, cycle some of that additive through the injectors, you know, while it's fresh. I don't know if that helps at all, but that's usually what I do. To pick up where we left off, I guess, we didn't talk about city fuel economy. You know, not all of us do 90-some% highway. I do, you know, and a lot of it. But, you know, I have done city driving in this truck too. And this, you know, is a weird point for this truck to really shine, but it does. And I went to Pensacola, Florida one time. At that time I lived in northern Mississippi, but I was down that way. And I had to do a lot of, you know, quasi-city driving, I would call it. I wouldn't say it was stop and go, but there was a lot of traffic lights. And it was like a 4-lane, but lots of traffic lights all over the place. That's just what it was like down there. And there was a lot of shifts too. A lot of first, second, third, back to first. You know, where you manage to hold third through a light and, you know, kind of climb your way out. You know, there's a lot of that. And I still got. You got to consider I did drive like 200 miles, 250 miles highway on that tank as well. I still got, you know, close to 19 miles a gallon. I got 18.7, 18.8. It was like, at that time, it was about only like a tenth or 2 of a mile a gallon below what I normally would get on all highway. So it did really well. And then in other areas up north where I've been in more of a city environment, you know, at times, you know, one time I accidentally drove the truck into the Bronx in New York. That was a major accident and mistake. And, you know, I had a fiasco with this truck in Connecticut, Vermont, things like that. Just not a good experience. Not the kind of driving I like to do with this truck. I like doing this right here because, you know, it's just, it doesn't feel like it's really having to work hard at all. It's just rolling along, and it's just has its stride right now. But on those tanks, you know, I was still getting 17, 18 miles a gallon, and that was at least half city miles on some of them. So that was pretty impressive as well. So my estimate for what you would get unloaded on 100% city in this truck, you know, where you never left the city, and, you know, like you live in New Orleans. New Orleans is, from where we are right now, it's like 25 miles, 26 miles. Say I lived in New Orleans and I drove this truck down there, and I always stayed in the city. You know, I still think I would get 15 miles a gallon, maybe 16, you know, in the summertime, and things are well. You know, it depends how much idle. If you avoid excessive idle, 16 is attainable in the city. That's quite impressive, because you go with the gas heavy duty and you get 11, and so that's a 5 MPG spread, whereas on the highway you may get 16 or 17 in the gasser and 19 in this. That's only a 2 or 3 MPG spread. Towing, and then you get, you do towing and you move back to a 5 or 6 MPG spread. But diesel's better in all categories, but it's kind of surprising to me that it would do so well in the city. It definitely isn't meant to be driven in the city. You've got to get it up and get the RPMs up a little bit, get the turbo spooled a little bit, and that keeps your truck healthy. Get it up to operating temperatures. That's good for your truck. In the city, if you're doing short hops, that's not good for it, especially in the wintertime. So, even though it does well in the city, it's not really a city truck. But, you can make it work. A little bit of spirited driving helps you out on the new trucks with the emissions. If you're a city driver all the time with one of the new trucks and you got DPF, a little spirited driving doesn't hurt that if you're stuck in the city all the time. So that's my little spiel on MPGs. So have a great day.